Well, the ramifications of last year's Summer of Love in Seattle are still reverberating because today a law group has filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Seattle, meaning the taxpayers of Seattle, for the wrongful death of 19-year-old Lorenzo Anderson. He was one of the two black teenagers who was shot and murdered at CHOP, the lawless takeover of part of the city. The attorney who filed this lawsuit is Mark Lindquist. He joins us here on the Dori Monson Show. Mark, always great to talk with you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dori. My pleasure.
All right, so tell me about the reasoning for this lawsuit against the city of Seattle, because it was somebody else who shot and killed this guy. Why are you filing a lawsuit against the city?
Right, Dori, and we're filing this lawsuit on behalf of Danita Sinclair, who is Lorenzo's mother, and there are two main points of the lawsuit. Number one, city officials created a dangerous environment by deserting the East Precinct and the whole area called CHOP. Number two, after Lorenzo was shot in the CHOP, the city failed to assist him medically, even though there was a Medic 1 unit only a block and a half away. And finally, to be clear, we're suing the city of Seattle for the actions of city officials because we think they should be accountable for those decisions.
Okay, and I understand that, but let's break these down. So failure to assist medically, there were people, domestic terrorists, who refused to let police or medic personnel in to that shooting. I mean, these guys who took over the streets, they're the ones who, they were armed and they were refusing to let Seattle Police or Medic 1 in. So how is that the city's responsibility?
So, Dori, there's actually video that shows CHOP participants begging Medic 1 to come in to rescue Anderson after he's been shot. Now, fire, as you know, has a policy of not going into potentially dangerous situations without clearance from police.
Right.
So there was a breakdown in communication between fire and police. Fire was trying to get permission from police to go in and to also get, of course, an escort from police to go in. And police thought fire was in one location, but in fact, fire was in a different location. And there was just this snafu of communication that caused the delay.
I understand that, but I've seen the same video, yeah. Mark, and I know that they were begging the medic people to come in, but as you alluded to,
right.
They have a department policy that they have to have, after a shooting especially, they have to have the police protect the area, and it was the police who were being prohibited from coming in by the street renegades. So again, I understand the city of Seattle let the streets, run amok. I understand that they created this anarchy on the streets, but that particular cause, it seems, was an impossibility for Medic 1 to go in, given what the policy is.
The videos, and there are a lot of them, Dori, but the videos that show the participants, protesters heckling the police, they're yelling things like, "You're too late. You waited too long. He's gone. He's at the hospital." But I agree with you, though, the main point here, and it was the first point I mentioned, which is the city created this dangerous environment by deserting the area. They cut off police, fire, medical, and other essential services into this area. That is the number one main bad decision. You can allow, peaceful protests without cutting off essential services as they did here.
Well, and here's the part. I read your release today, and what I absolutely agree with you on is the city didn't just allow this with passivity. The city enabled it. The city brought in portable toilets, lighting, other support. They did everything they could to help what was a group of domestic terrorists taking over part of the city. I mean, to me then and to me today, Mark, I mean, that's the strongest part of your case, because that was unconscionable then, and even with the benefit of hindsight, I still cannot fathom what the decision makers were doing with this.
Well, that's another goal of our lawsuit, is we're going to flesh out the truth here, who made the decision, what the reasoning was, and hold people accountable.
Have you any preliminary ideas? Because Carmen Best was obviously very frustrated with giving up the East Precinct and the CHOP area. The Seattle City Council, they certainly enabled CHOP. Jenny Durkin appeased CHOP. Between those parties, the City Council, the mayor, have you any preliminary idea of who? I mean, I understand it's the city, but who within the city is responsible?
Well, Chief Best said publicly she did not make the decision to abandon the East Precinct. And at this point, evidence supports her.
Yeah, and I agree it's not Carmen Best, but that's where I'm asking. Is it the city council? Is it the mayor? Is it all of them? I mean, who's responsible?
Good question, Dori, and it's easier to say who didn't make the decision, Carmen Best, than who did. But again, that's one of the things that will come out in the course of this lawsuit. And as you know, there's another lawsuit as well filed by the CHOP business owners. So I think between our lawsuit and their lawsuit, we're going to learn more, and I'd be happy to come back on and fill you in when we do.
Well, and I mean, if we are going to identify people, and you mentioned this in your release today, one of the bits of insanity, one of the many bits of insanity, was Shama Sawant, who the next day said it was a right-wing attack, the murder of your client.
Zero evidence of that. Right.
Right. I mean that's what I'm talking about, Mark. She said she wanted to make the case because do they have any suspects in the murder of your client?
They do. They've identified Marcel Long as the shooter. The King County Prosecutor's Office has charged him with murder in the first degree. And
That's
actually,
right. Okay.
Crime Stoppers is offering a cash reward to anyone who gives information that leads to the arrest of Long.
Okay. But he's still at large?
He is, yes.
Okay. But yes, I mean, he's a black man. And the next day, Shama Sawant just made up out of whole cloth that it was some white supremacist right-wing attack. And it was so irresponsible. These city officials, it's just unimaginable to me how we've allowed our city to be in the clutches of people who are so irresponsible. What are you looking for here? Have you put a dollar figure on this?
Well, we're looking for justice for Danita, Lorenzo, and the family. We're looking for accountability from city officials. And yes, at some point, there'll be a dollar figure attached. But right now, our main focus is justice, flushing out the truth, and holding people accountable.
But your initial filing does not have a dollar figure attached to it?
No, it does not, and that's not required in federal court.
Okay. And why is this a federal case, by the way?
Because it's a violation of 14th Amendment due process and parental rights. Danita losing her son unnecessarily in what's called a state-created danger.
Got it. All right. Good information, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on with me this afternoon.
Hey, I always appreciate the dialogue. Thank you, Dori.
All right. Mark Lindquist, former Pierce County prosecutor, who has now filed suit on behalf of his group, Herman Law Group, against the city of Seattle for a murder at CHOP in the horrible summer of 2020. As I said, it just continues to reverberate. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can text me at 98973. That's 98973. Lots more to come here on the Dori Monson Show.